The book of Enoch describes 10 different levels of heaven. Enoch was taken to each heaven by an archangel, and Enoch witnessed what each level of heaven housed. Some of the beings in the higher realms of heaven frightened Enoch so much that he fell down in terror. In this video, I will be explaining every level of heaven described in the book of Enoch. A quick disclaimer. My ultimate goal is to turn you all to the Most High. I do not want any of you praising angels or any other heavenly figure, but only the one true God. All right, now that that's out of the way, it's time to get into the 10 levels of heaven, the beginning of Enoch chosen by God. The book of Enoch reads, "There was a wise man and a great artisan whom the Lord took away, and he loved him so that he might see the highest realms and the most wise, great, inconceivable, and unchanging kingdom of God Almighty, and of the most marvelous, glorious, shining, many-eyed station of the Lord's servants, and of the Lord's immovable throne, and of the ranks and organization of the body armies, and of the indescribable composition of the multitude of elements, singing of the army of the cherubim, and of the light without measure." To be an eyewitness, this verse explains how the Lord viewed Enoch as such a great human that he took him to heaven while he was still alive. The only other person to go to heaven while still alive is the prophet Elijah. Enoch meets angels. Enoch himself explains the encounter he had with the angels that took him to heaven. He details how he first had a dream about these beings coming into his room, and when he opened his eyes, they were actually standing there. Enoch describes, "And I lay on my bed sleeping, and while I slept, a great distress entered my heart, and I was weeping with my eyes in a dream. I could not figure out what this distress might be or what might be happening to me. Then two huge men appeared to me, the likes of which I had never seen on earth. Their faces were like the shining sun, their eyes were like burning lamps, and from their mouths fire was coming forth. Their clothing was various, singing, and their wings were more glistening than gold. Their hands were whiter than snow, and they stood at the head of my bed and called me by my name. Then I awoke from my sleep and saw those men standing in front of me in reality. I bowed down to them, terrified, and the appearance of my face was changed because of fear. Then those men said to me, 'Be brave, Enoch, do not fear. The eternal God has sent us to you, and behold, you will ascend with us to heaven.' First heaven. The first heaven is directly above the firmament, above the earth. The firmament is a dome-shaped structure that covers the earth, as described in the Bible. We can also see this early depiction of the firmament in several ancient cultures. Enoch describes seeing a huge body of water, much larger than any ocean on earth. God says in the Bible that there is water above the firmament. Genesis 1:7 says, "And God made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so." Enoch explains, "And they took me up onto their wings, carried me up to the first heaven, and placed me on the clouds. Behold, they were moving, and there I perceived the air higher up, and higher still I saw the ether. They placed me on the first heaven and showed me a vast ocean, much bigger than the earthly ocean." Enoch goes on to explain seeing a mysterious group of figures known as the elders and 200 angels who govern the stars. Second heaven. The second heaven is eerily similar to hell, but it is for fallen angels known as the Watchers. Enoch describes seeing a darkness greater than any earthly darkness, and prisoners in the second heaven awaiting judgment. Enoch asks an angel why they were in prison, and the angel replies, "I said to the men who were with me, 'Why are these ones being tormented unceasingly?' Those men answered me, 'These are those who turned away from the Lord, who did not obey the Lord's commandments, but of their own will plotted together and turned away with their prince and those who are under restraint.' Third heaven. The third heaven is a paradise for the righteous. The righteous will inherit this heaven for their good deeds. However, there is also another side of this heaven, very similar to hell." Enoch explains, "And those men took me from there and brought me up to the third heaven and set me down. Then I looked downward and saw paradise. That place is inconceivably pleasant. I saw the trees in full flower, and their fruits were ripe, giving off a pleasant fragrance, with every food yielding profusely. In the midst of them was the tree of life, more beautiful than any other created thing." Enoch continues, describing the rivers of honey, milk, oil, and wine, which divide into parts and flow around the earth, blessing the land. He is told by the angels that this place is prepared for the righteous, those who suffer, help others, and walk righteously before the Lord. The northern hell. Enoch is then taken to the northern region of this heaven, which he describes as a frightful place. He sees a river of fire and a place of torment. The angels tell him this place is for those who don't glorify God, particularly for those who practice witchcraft, steal, and deceive others. Fourth heaven. The fourth heaven is where the solar and lunar tracks are. Enoch describes seeing the sun's rays, which are 7 times greater than the moon's, and the sun's movements that go by with remarkable speed. He also sees 4 great stars, each with 1,000 stars under it, accompanying the sun. Fifth heaven. The fifth heaven is where the Watchers, also known as the Grigori, reside. These angels, who had children with human women and created the Nephilim, are described as human-like but giant in comparison. Sixth heaven. The sixth heaven has 7 groups of angels, who are described as extremely bright beings, brighter than the sun. These angels study the stars, the sun's revolution, and the well-being of the cosmos. They ensure order and carry out the commandments and instructions of God. Seventh heaven. The seventh heaven is so frightening to Enoch that he trembles with fear. He sees fiery armies of archangels, cherubim, seraphim, dominions, and many-eyed thrones. The sight of God's most powerful angels fills Enoch with terror. Eighth and ninth heavens. The eighth heaven is called Muth, the changer of seasons, and is associated with the 12 zodiacs. The ninth heaven is called Kavim, where the heavenly houses of the 12 zodiacs reside. 10th heaven. The 10th and final heaven is where God himself resides. Enoch describes God's face as resembling iron made in burning hot fire. His face emits sparks and is supremely awesome and frightening. The armies of cherubim and seraphim sing praises to God in this heaven. Enoch is anointed with spiritual oil, and his earthly clothing is removed. When he looks at himself, he realizes he is no different than the angels in heaven.